let's talk about Wes Moore. He basically said he's not going to run. Do y'all think Wes Moore is running? Yes or no? Amy?
Yes. Yeah,
No.
I've always thought he was going to
Okay.
run. I mean,
Jonathan
yeah.
Allen?
Yeah, I think he's running. Remember, Barack Obama also said he wasn't running.
So did Bill Clinton.
And many others have said they weren't running until the minute they were.
Yeah. Okay, Alex, you think he's running?
Absolutely.
Okay. We'll shorten this up. Raise your hand, the three of you, if you think he'd be formidable and potentially a first-tier candidate if he runs. Raise your hand. All right. Not John Allen, right? John, you didn't raise your hand?
I'm not there yet.
Not there yet. All right. Here's someone in the John Allen camp, to say the least. Speaking earlier today, this is a political analyst, Donald John Trump, 202.
If I may, the mother of a 15-year-old California boy was briefly detained at gunpoint in a case of mistaken identity. The LAUSD superintendent says that surveillance video shows armed agents wearing police and border patrol insignia. Given the National Guard, the Border Control, ICE agents, they're not trained in local policing. What specific steps are you taking to ensure that young people are not put in harm's way with these types of operations?
Yeah, what they are trained in is common sense, and they're very tough people. And they have great common sense, and they are highly trained. I heard the mayor of LA was saying, oh, they're not trained this way. I heard this character from, where was he from? They talk about him as a candidate. He's got no chance. The governor of Maryland, I watched him this morning saying that the governor of Maryland, yeah, they say maybe he'll be a president. He's not presidential timber at all. But I heard him today talking about how the National Guard or the military is not trained in police, but they're trained in common sense, and they're trained in not allowing people to burn down buildings and bomb buildings and shoot people and all of the things. They've done a great job. Again, if we didn't send them,
okay, that's enough. John Allen, what's your hesitation to not join your two colleagues in raising your hand? What are the metrics there, or the factors?
A couple of factors. One, as a native Marylander, my bar for seeing a Marylander as a presidential contender is pretty high. To the extent that California has liberal governance, so too does Maryland, but it's a much smaller state and much less nationally prominent. I think so Moore will have to deal with that. I think that he again is untested. Just hasn't been out there enough. As you know, as Alex knows, as Amy knows, running for president of the United States is a full-on athletic performance. And we just haven't seen that yet from him. It doesn't mean he won't get there, but I think he's got to hit some stepping stones before he gets to the point where he is among the most formidable candidates. Now, in his favor, if he can figure out how to make a connection with South Carolina voters and Mississippi voters, and I was talking about this a little before, there's sort of a reverse deal in the Democratic primary. The most important places to win are in Democratic primaries are the supermajority Black congressional districts where you can get tremendously asymmetrical numbers of delegates out of them. Even though in Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, South Carolina, those states are not competitive in general elections. So if you're Wes Moore and you can figure out how to make a connection with those Southern voters and get them to believe that you can win a presidential election at the general level, then then you become a very serious and very formidable contender. I haven't seen that yet from him.
Amy, what makes you say he is in the first tier potentially?
He's the person besides Gavin Newsom that I get the most questions about when I talk to audiences, when John and I have been out, people have asked me about him directly. When I speak to strategists, there's something intriguing about him. A lot of it is he Barack Obama 2.0? And I cringe at that a little bit because I don't want it to be just, about the color of his skin, but he's like young and energetic and, as John said, can appeal to a lot of Black voters, and that's how you win a primary. And so I do think he runs. I think there's a lane for him. I think he falls into that fresh blood category that a lot of Democrats are kind of thirsty for right now. And for all those reasons, I think he runs.
Alex, you were one of the first Republicans that I talked to in 2015 or 2007 and 8 who said this Obama guy is going to be hard to stop because no one wants to cheer against the sunrise. Wes Moore, besides sharing his race, obviously shares a lot of his, infectious enthusiasm, his optimism. his toughness coupled with the optimism. So is Wes Moore in the same category that if he hits it just right and it turns out it is his time, that Republicans would be find it daunting to beat him in a general election?
He's a good horse, but he's not Secretariat. I'd say he's a B or B minus level Obama, but with military credentials, Rhodes Scholars, author. I don't think he's the black candidate in the race. I think he's the candidate for white, guilt-ridden liberals in the suburbs. I think he's more of an establishment candidate, and and so I think he's got a shot, and I think he's a B-level candidate who is a top-tier candidate because the rest of the field's so damn weak.
Yeah, Amy,
Mark,
yeah, go ahead, John.
I was just going to say, I mean, that's I think Alex is making the kind of opposites, or making the point that I was trying to make with, if Moore can become a candidate that black voters get behind, because I agree with Alex that he is at moment an establishment candidate, somebody who is loved by white liberals in the suburbs in Maryland, which is why he's the governor of Maryland. And so, the question for me, inside Maryland, yes, you've got tremendous support among black voters, but will he become the candidate of black voters? Will anybody become the candidate? And if somebody does, will it be him in the 2028 Democratic primary? I think that's still left to be seen. We saw Democratic voters in 2020, saw black Democrats flock to Joe Biden, and many of them in part because they saw him as so moderate and so liked by white centrists and potentially capable of beating Trump.
Yeah, Amy.
Yeah, and I think John mentioned this earlier, but like someone like Pete Buttigieg has a huge problem with black voters still, something that has haunted him from the past. So there's definitely a lane to appeal to black voters in this election.
Yeah, and of course we'll have to see what the early states are and how significant black voter support is. South Carolina will almost certainly be an early state, so it'll matter to some extent. Amy, ask you about national security credentials. Donald Trump never served, but he carries himself like a tough guy, a strong guy. Strength is one a big part of his brand. And if you look at the people the Democrats have nominated, typically it's been people who have either had national security credentials of some sort or come across in their policy positions on foreign policy as tough. We're in a very uncertain time. And I'm wondering to the extent you think that's something that general election voters or nominating voters will care about. And does the fact that Wes Moore served, is that a big deal? Is that a potential differentiator for, with the exception of him and Buttigieg, there's not a lot of national security experience in this potential field?
I think it could be, obviously, but I think voters really, when I talk to voters, when I'm out in the field talking to regular, normal people, they just want someone that speaks their language mostly. I think that's why Donald Trump succeeded, because he had a message, he amplified that message, he connected with voters, he gave them what they want what they wanted. And so I think that is sort of what Democrats really need to be. And I think that's why Gavin Newsom, I think, is sort of stepping into that role in a big way, because he's already out there sort of speaking that language, playing the role of fighter. And I think that's appealing to a lot of people right now.
All right, I want to ask everybody here all three of you, one more question about the Democrats, then switch to Republicans, and Alex can talk about his view of the field first. Then we're going to take your questions. So please, if you want to get in on the conversation about 2028, raise your hand. Go around, Alex first. One or two Democrats who may run, who we haven't named, who you think have the most potential right now, knowing that the whole thing could change. But what are one or two Democrats you think we should be focused on, along with Moore and Newsom, who all three of you agree are worthy of some focus? Alex, you first, one or two.
I think the Democrats are such a mess that almost anyone could pop. I don't think it's Gretchen Whitmer, but I still think Josh Shapiro could transcend because, yes, he's on the wrong side of an increasingly pro-Palestinian party, but sometimes somebody gets out there and just, like Barack Obama, and charms the world. I think he might be the guy.